So there is a term in Cebuano and Tagalog, utang na loob or utang kaboboton. I'm not sure what exactly it is in English if you translate it, but yes, it's basically the translation is that family obligation that you have to give back. And where is that coming from? It's basically when, this idea of your parents give life to you, they let you be here in this world, and without them, you will not be here. Without them, you'll be nothing. And at first, like of course, in the past, I totally agree with that. Like, yeah, definitely. And they've sacrifices a lot in their lives. So now it's time for me to pay it forward, pay it off. And the thing here in the Philippines, we don't question things. Like if we're told that, oh, this is just how it works, like we automatically assume that it's fact. That's how you do things. And if you disagree with that, you're being disrespectful or you're not a good child. If you question, like, oh, why do I have to give back? Like, how could you ask that kind of question? It should just be the way it is. Your parents sacrifices their lives for you. They gave you food, shelter, and everything. When I ask that question, like, because I notice myself when my family start obligating me to do something because they're using this phrase of utang na loob, utang kaboboton, paying it forward. Somehow it doesn't sit right. And it feels like I'm being forced to do something, to give something, because this aunt of mine, this sister of mine sacrifices something for me, to give me food, to give me shelter, to help me out. And I just remember one time when I was in high school and we did this feeding program to people who live under the bridge. We were just giving porridge, used clothes, toys, school supplies, and I saw how happy those people are receiving those things. And that was the first time that I felt so much joy and love inside of me. And I was like so happy seeing it. And I got confused, like, what the heck? Why do I feel this such strong emotion for me giving towards other people? It's supposed to be backwards. If I'm receiving something, then I would assume that I would felt this strong emotion. And this things is not being taught at school. So I just keep asking myself, like, oh, what is that feeling all about? And now I realize that receiving and giving actually have the same frequency of emotion that you receive. If you actually give genuinely, it's very rewarding. And if you receive something from someone who was giving you, you know, genuinely, you also felt it. You also feel appreciative and grateful. Now, when it comes to the paying forward towards the family, for me, as someone who's trying to give back, doesn't really feel that good because I see it as an obligation. And me giving it to them, like let's say with my sister, and they ask me, oh, you bring lechon. And at least that's the way you can show your appreciation or you can give back to your family. And part of me was like, I don't know if I really want to spend this money for lechon just to say thank you to you guys for helping me out, for raising me, something like that. And also for those people who expect you to give because, you know, that's you paying forward for now being in a place where you can afford. For them, they wouldn't be able to accept whatever you give and be appreciative of it, because, for them, it's just a mandatory thing. And the funny thing is, when you give it in this way, in this dynamic of just because of that sense of obligation, people who receive it, there are times that they would tend to not even appreciate, and at the same time would even complain, like, oh, this is just what you're giving me, this is not enough. And that is just so sad, because both of you are not able to experience that amazing feeling of warmth and really satisfying emotion when you give and when you receive something. You're rubbing yourself off of that emotion because of that obligation feeling. And one thing I was also a parent myself, and I had this moment in my life where part of me was feeling resentful for being a mother, for having my kids, because I'm telling myself, like, oh, if I don't have children, I could have gone to school, I could have finished college, I could have worked and had a better life. But now I'm stuck at home and I'm very depressed, and I have so much problem on how I can provide for the family. And that was such a very depressing moment of my life, because I was wrapped around in this victim mentality that my situation, the circumstances that I'm in right now, limits me from becoming the best version of myself. And because of that, I feel resentful towards having children. That's just not all the time. I love my kids, but let's be real, it happens. And I feel like, when I pause and just let myself cry all those frustration out, and it took me like 6 long years being in that relationship, being wrapped around in that kind of mindset of, I feel like I don't have any control with my life. I feel so victimized by the situation, the people around me. I don't get to say what I really want or express what I really want, because I couldn't live my life anymore, because I'm already a mom. I have obligation, I have responsibility towards my kids, my family. It was so draining and toxic until I finally had the courage to step up. I finally had the courage to take responsibility of my life and decide that, you know what? Yes, I am a mother. And yes, I have this family, but I am also me. I am also Gladys. And I have to remind myself of that. That moment, I decided I want to reclaim who I am. And that was actually a very powerful decision when I made that. Because then now I can operate life not due to obligation or not feeling guilty or ashamed for taking care of myself or prioritizing myself. Now, yes, I agree. I have a responsibility towards my children. But at the same time, I also want to experience being Gladys. I want to see places. I want to meet people. And before, I couldn't do that. Like after work, all I have to do is just go home. I don't want to hang out with my friends, meet my friends. I don't even have friends during that time. And whenever I do, I only get to see them at work. I don't hang out with them outside work. My life is such in this small bubble of just house and family. And when I started going out of that bubble and deciding to, live my life the way I want it to be, that's when I get to see different perspective, hear different perspective from other people. And I really appreciate being around people from the West, guys from the West, who gave me some words of how it actually looks like in their family, why they don't feel obligated to give back to their parents, unlike here in the Philippines. And it's so nice to be able to see those other perspective and to hold it both in your hand, to question it and to try to understand it. Now, in my case, here in the Philippines, I totally get it. I totally understand why there's that family obligation thing that pulls you. It's because our parents who raised us, they also got that feeling of, sacrificing themselves for their family. They sacrifices their dreams in life so they could, they can serve their family, their kids. And because of that, they feel like, okay, since I sacrificed myself, now you're obligated to, like, when I grow old, you're obligated to give back to me. You're obligated to help me because of that unfairness that they actually feel. But I just want to raise this question. I don't know. I want to remember the term. It's like COVID contract. What was that? It's like our parents, when they have us, they made this contract like, okay, I will provide for you, I will support you, I will take care of you, as long as when you grow up, you will take care of me. But the thing is, we don't know anything. We're like signing a contract that we didn't even know exists. Because we don't have to say that, hey, mom, dad, like, I want to be in this world, like, create me, gave birth to me. We didn't get anything to say about that. Like, our parents made the decision of bringing us into this world. And I think as parents, to all Filipinos out there, I feel like for parents who made that decision, they have to embrace that, embrace being a parent and embrace all the responsibility that goes along with it, which is taking care of a child, providing for a child, and spending time for a child. And again, you can't like list all those things that you do and hand it over to your children, like, okay, now you pay it forward because I did all this. I think that's a very unfair thing because, again, your children, your kids, you didn't get to say yes or no to that kind of agreement. You never even had a chance to negotiate it, right? So that's something that I want to remind beautiful girls out there who had this feeling of obligation to support their family, to give back to their family. I want to invite you to question that. Like, do you really want to feel obligated in giving to your family? Or would it be more satisfying if you actually give something to your loved ones because you want it? And isn't it beautiful, or isn't it sad when you also give something to your parents or to people and then they would end up complaining, this is not enough, I still need more? It's just funny. When I started realizing that pattern that's happening all around me with my sisters, neighbors, and within myself, I decided not to continue with that pattern anymore. I decided I want to break that chain. I decided to really take full ownership and responsibility of the decisions that I made in life so that I can, that way, I don't have to drag my kids into that kind of pattern. Because it's very limiting. Like I have this friend who's 31 and she worked abroad for like what, 6 years, and all she did was just send money home because she had this obligation that, oh, my parents work so hard to provide for us, so now that I have a job I need to give everything back. And she totally forgot about herself. She totally forgot that she also have wants, and every time that she would buy things for herself, she felt so guilty about it And she was just thinking, oh, I could have just sent it back home so that they have food, so that they have rice to eat. And that's just so sad. And I know not all parents are very conscious about this as well, because again, this is just a pattern, a trap pattern that's being passed along generation after generation. And it's very rare for people to really question it, because even the questioning itself sounds very disrespectful here for some reason. And that's something that I want to talk more about, maybe for another video, like how crazy it is, like the hierarchy of parents and kids, like older people, younger people, and you not being allowed to question what this, older people have to say, because if you do so, it's you being disrespectful. I don't see it that way anymore. And I want to talk more about that topic. But going back to this family obligation thing, and like you not able to really do something for yourself because you just better, give it to your parents, to your family, to your kids. I had that feeling of there are things that, going to work, I need a jacket, but I couldn't even buy a jacket because I'm thinking it's so selfish for me to buy a jacket for myself. I could just buy things for my kids. And when I noticed that path, I was like, you know what? I don't want to feel bad that I'm not, I'm taking care of my kids and providing for my kids. And therefore, in order for me not to feel that way, I need to also take care of myself, or else I would feel very unfair. I would feel that I'm sacrificing so much for my children. And when I made that decision of, realizing that me as a parent, yes, it's an obligation and it's my choice to take full responsibility of taking care of my children. And aside from being a mother, I am also Gladys. I am also myself. And there are things that I want to explore and experience. And I don't want to hold myself back just because I have this other version of me, which is Gladys, the mother. And I just want to see it as different faces or different version of myself. Like I could be a mother, I could be a partner, I could be a friend, and I could be myself. You don't have to set yourself aside and forget about who you are and what you could be and just focus on one role of being just a mom. Because I've done that in the past and it didn't really make me feel happy and fulfilled as a person. And so when I started really realizing that, that's just another version of me, and that's very important, the same thing as I myself, loving myself, making myself, recognizing that there are things that I want to do for myself is also as important as taking care of my kids, then it actually free me from that obligation feeling of being a parent. And I would love to invite all of you, especially to all the Filipinos out there who's been trapped in this obligation society or mindset that we have here in the Philippines. I invite you to really ask that question, like, do you really think that you necessarily have to give back to your parents? Like, as I've said before, it's their decision to give birth to you. It's their decision to have you in this world. And of course, as a child, you can't do anything. And since they made a decision, it's their responsibility to really look after you. And they can't give you a list of that if you didn't really ask for it. Okay? I am in this journey of really trying to peel off that version of me that is just mold because of the cultural belief, religious belief, society's belief. but I don't think that's really me. So I'm just removing all those pieces until I become just Gladys, my real authentic self. And I know it's going to be a lifelong journey. And I would love to invite you to join me in this journey. And also, if you appreciate this channel and you'd love to support me, I would encourage you guys to like, comment, and subscribe. And again, I love questions. So please help me create more content in this channel by asking more and more questions so that we could all together figure out and answer those. And for all of you who feel sad, lonely, depressed, anxious, that's okay. We all go through that phase. And if you're here right now watching this video, just want to remind you of how amazing you are as a person, and you're beautiful, you're perfect. I love you and hope to see you next time.